Good morning, I'm Charles Osgood, and this is Sunday Morning. Last night, in a square of Tel Aviv called Kings of Israel, 100,000 Israelis listened to their prime minister say people really want peace. The rally ended, and the prime minister began to walk toward his car. He did not make it. A young Jewish law student, an Israeli, had worked his way to within a few feet of Yitzhak Rabin, raised a gun, and fired 3 shots. Today, in Jerusalem, Yitzhak Rabin's body is lying in state. Tomorrow, once mourners have had a chance to pay their respects, there will be a funeral attended by many heads of state, President Clinton among them. We did not imagine we would have to bring you news this morning of the death of a peacemaker, but that is the subject of our cover story, to be reported by Terrence Smith.
The exuberant joy of a peace rally turned into a tragedy in Tel Aviv last night, stunning Israel and the world. Yitzhak Rabin, the warrior who led his nation towards peace, was cut down by a fellow Israeli. This Sunday morning, we'll remember the life of this soldier, diplomat, and statesman.
To everything there is a season and a time, to every purpose under heaven.
We will talk later on this morning about the terrible turn of events in the Middle East with Bob Simon in Jerusalem and Rita Braver in Washington, and with Fuad Ajami here in New York. It will be hard to move on, but we will, to the story of an opera singer, for one thing, who has brought the stirring music of her own past from the new world to the old. Grace Bumbry is her name. For that reason, but not for that reason only, we called Martha Teichner's report Amazing Grace. And then from Anthony Mason, a story of wolves and men.
It is the ultimate call of the wild, the sound of wolves howling once again in Yellowstone National Park. Later on Sunday morning, we'll trace their return to America's premier park after an absence of 70 years.
From Tim Sample, a postcard from Maine. From John Leonard, thoughts on a couple of gory films and a book on the same difficult subject. First, however, for news of how things stand this morning in shaken and stricken Israel, here is a report from Jesse Schulman in Jerusalem.
They came to bid farewell to a son of their soil, to a founder of their nation, to a man who risked his life in war to create them a Jewish state and lost his life in a crusade to bring them peace. Out of sight for the moment are the divisions tearing at this country, the passions that led to his assassination by a fellow Jew, masked by the unity of sorrow. Rabin's body is lying in state at Israel's parliament, the Knesset. He'll be buried tomorrow here in Jerusalem, the city of his birth. The road to Jerusalem. Rabin led troops up these passes once in the battle for the holy city in the days of Israel's birth. A military truck bore his coffin up that route today. Rabin was at a peace rally, at his ease, surrounded by tens of thousands of his supporters. Jewish extremist Yigal Amir fired 3 bullets into him at point-blank range. Amir had tried before to kill Rabin, but failed to breach security. This time, he succeeded. This morning, Israel's cabinet met in another emergency session. Foreign Minister Shimon Peres, lately Rabin's closest partner, is now in charge.
Yitzhak Rabin was at his best in wars, but he was at his greatest in peace.
Peres is pledging the peace process will continue, but that promise will be a tough one to keep. Outside Rabin's home, Israelis paid informal tribute. For a country already hovering between hope and fear, the future now looks more uncertain than ever. But the future will have to wait until the grieving is done. Jesse Schulman, CBS News, Jerusalem.
Rita Braver is in Washington this morning preparing to travel with President Clinton to Israel. Good morning, Rita.
Good morning, Charles.
Rita, you were there at the White House yesterday when the word came about the assassination. What was the reaction?
Well, I happened to be interviewing the Deputy Chief of Staff, Harold Ickes, at the time of the shooting. Our crew was beeped, and we told Mr. Ickes, what happened, there was almost a sense of disbelief. Before long, people from all over Washington who are part of the administration's foreign policy team started to arrive at the White House. And I think even after the death was confirmed, there was almost an unwillingness to believe it had actually happened. I've been at the White House, you know, day after day after day, and I don't think I can really remember a sense of this extreme, profound sorrow before.
Because it is a shocking thing, Rita, but what is the feeling around the White House about the implications of this as far as the peace process is concerned? Is there worry about that?
I think there's definitely worry. There is also a lot of hope. Last night, the president was to have gotten on the phone, as was Warren Christopher, to talk to the other leaders in the Middle East and to urge them to take heart and not to give up, and to say that the legacy of Rabin should be the legacy of peace. But obviously, because of Rabin's huge personal input into this process, there is a concern that it might not go forward as quickly as it would have if he'd been around.
Rita, you're leaving shortly to go with the president for the funeral tomorrow. Was there ever any question about whether President Clinton would go? And it is a very high-powered delegation, isn't it?
It really is, and I think from the beginning the only question that I heard at the White House was, would he physically have enough time to get there for the funeral? Would they delay it in time for world leaders to come? As you know, they have invited the congressional leadership and former presidents of the United States, and the reason for this is to show the Middle East and show the world the commitment that the U.S. has to this peace process, as well as the president's own personal respect and real grief. You could see it in his face yesterday about this killing.
Thank you, Rita. Rita Braver in Washington. In other news this morning, the second longest mission in space shuttle history ended right on schedule at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida just after sunrise this morning. Columbia came gracefully back down to Earth after 16 days in the darkness of space. Welcome home, Voyagers. It is being reported this morning that Typhoon Angela, which whipped through the Philippine Islands on Friday, may have left more than 500 people dead in its wake. But that may be a low estimate, since the fierce storm did most of its damage in remote provinces which have yet really to be heard from. A government official says the Philippines look as if they have been through a miniature war. We'll have a look at sports and the weather and a milepost by which to remember the week when Sunday Morning returns.
You know, a lot of people think that all Italian clothing is expensive. Well, that used to be the case, but now the Men's Warehouse has positioned one of our employees in Italy supervising the direct production of our Italian clothing. That's why we can offer quality Italian suits from $300. That's great value, I guarantee it.
Now open in Lloyd Center, lower level near Marshall's.
It's back, Oregon's RV Show of Shows. I'm Sherry Dorn, inviting you to the RV Show of Shows with great savings today.
You simply won't find a better RV selection anywhere in the Northwest. Motorhomes, fifth wheels, travel trailers, campers, tent trailers, and more. All at fantastic show discounts. It's save, save, save. The RV Show of Shows, November 8th through the 12th in the Expo Center. Don't miss the country's best RV selling show.
Our families need Medicare, but now we learn the truth.
Now, we don't get rid of it in round one because we don't think that that's politically smart. We don't think that's the right way to go through a transition. But we believe it's going to wither on the vine.
And now the Republicans in Congress want the president to cut a deal and just let Medicare wither on the vine. No deal. The president will veto any bill that cuts Medicare benefits, education, or harms the environment. The president believes we must do our duty by our parents and provide our children with opportunity.
There's a big surprise in Sunday's paper. It's the Freddy's Toy World Wish Book. 48 pages full of the toys your kids want, with 40 money-saving coupons on the hottest new toys for kids of all ages. Toys that entertain, toys that let them create and stretch their imagination. And you can enter to win a $1,000 shopping spree. Make sure you look in this Sunday's paper for the Freddy's Toy World Wish Book. The kids will love the toys, and you'll like the low prices.
In sports, with the scheduled Mike Tyson-Buster Mathis Jr. bout called off because of Tyson's fractured thumb, There was a fight in Las Vegas anyway last night between two former heavyweight champions. Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield had fought twice before, with Bowe winning the title from Holyfield in 1992 and Holyfield winning it back a year later. Last night they beat each other up for 7.5 rounds, and Bowe won it on a TKO in the 8th. First knockout loss ever for Holyfield. It may turn out to be his last fight. In college football, the amazing Wildcats of Northwestern amazed Penn State yesterday. Most amazing of all was running back Darnell Autry, who accounted for all the Wildcats scoring except the extra points. The visiting Nittany Lions tried to stop Autry, but to no avail. Here was his second touchdown of the day. Penn State's Joe Paterno was not a happy man, to say the least. And again, Darnell Autry with his third touchdown, sealing a 21-10 win for Northwestern, now undefeated in the Big Ten, and with an excellent chance now to go to the Rose Bowl. As for the weather, the calendar says winter is weeks and weeks away. The thermometer seems a little less sure of itself. Quite chilly almost everywhere around the country today, from downright wintry 30s in a couple of thumbprint-shaped sections of the northern tier, to comfortable, if hardly balmy, 60s all through the south. If you want to be warm, you'll have to travel all the way to the desert or the southernmost tip of Florida. As for the weather, gray skies above the Tennessee and the Ohio valleys, out of which gray skies, light showers, and perhaps even a little snow may come from time to time. Dry up and down the East Coast, but windy. Squalls are a possibility in some sections of western New York State. Mixed rain and snow through the northwest, and soggy around the southern plains and the southwest. It's not a pretty picture. And then tomorrow's picture is even less pretty. A bit warmer along the Atlantic coast, but inland from there, the clouds get thicker and thicker from the Appalachians westward. A steady rain will fall on the plains, the northern sections of which will also be buffeted by strong winds. Chilly in those parts, too. Cloudy around the northwest and good and rainy in Oregon. A milepost now. Such things happen in wartime, of course, but they happen otherwise. A soldier shoots at some distant target and may or may not know what his bullet has done. Shells are fired from one hill to another. Bombs are dropped onto coordinates of a map. War is largely a faceless business. This was something else. Assassination is a kind of fratricide. Only a brother, a countryman, a co-religionist can come close enough to kill the way Yitzhak Rabin was killed, nearly face to face, by a man who may have looked very like a younger version of the Prime Minister himself. Enemies we keep at a distance. Members of our own family we do not guard against. An Egyptian killed Anwar Sadat. An Indian killed Mahatma Gandhi. An American killed John Kennedy. And now an Israeli has killed Yitzhak Rabin. There isn't much choice about how to remember the week. In the Holy Land, where Cain slew his brother Abel a very long time ago, it has happened again.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have a brief announcement to make. Today, our country enters the 21st century with a private...
Around the world today, a historic transformation is taking place, as industries once owned by governments are increasingly owned by investors. And Merrill Lynch is helping lead the way by advising governments in some of the most significant privatizations, and by advising investors on how best to take advantage of the opportunities that result.
Privatization leads...
But our role is hardly surprising, given that more companies, countries, and individuals turn to Merrill Lynch for financial advice than any other firm.
And a better life for our people.
For all our clients, the quality of our advice makes a difference. The difference is Merrill Lynch.
At BASF, we don't make the mattress, we make it softer. We don't make the boots, we make them drier. We don't make the house, we make it livelier. We don't make the snowboard, we make it stronger. At BASF, we don't make a lot of the products you buy,